Gabby, so this is a really fun and important topic that you're covering here. Fun because you're exploring different sides of people that aren't often seen in photography, and important because of that, because you want to show that boys are raised to be a certain way, but that's not how they truly are. And I think you're trying to show in these images that all the different side of men that aren't always encouraged as they're being raised. So you have your boyfriend, you have your dad, and your brother in these images. So three people that were raised very differently, it sounds like. All right, let's look at these technically. So let's start off with your ISO. You're at ISO 400. Oh, actually for all of them. So that works fine. That works for your camera. Your aperture is pretty wide. You're keeping it at between 1.8 and 5 for all of these. And I think that's going to have to do with just needing more light in your images. And then some of your images are shot with faster shutter speeds, 250, while others here, you're at 1/20th of a second, 1/20th of a second, 1/20th of a second, 1/60th of a second. The focus looks good in all of your images, but I think there is some camera shake that happens or some movement that happens on your subject in some of these. So here we can see there's movement on the subject. They're not quite sharp. Here, his hands are still, but his face is moving a little bit. Here it looks like they're moving a little bit. Neither of them look perfectly sharp, but the table looks perfectly sharp. And then the rest of them are all nice and sharp. Here, it looks like he's out of focus, but we can see you have a point of focus in his hands. So technically, your images have good exposure all the way through. Some of them have a color cast from the light, that fifth and seventh image. But they have good exposure, the amount of light hitting the image sensor. We just have some images that have some camera shake or motion blur rather from your subject. The light in your images, it looks like the first three images are shot outdoors, and you have here especially really beautiful light coming across your subject's face. The light for the indoor images doesn't add that depth to your subject in the same way. You can see the beauty of the light as it comes on his face and on his hands, that softness of the light. But here it's much harder as the light's coming down on him. Here it was smart to have him look up into the light opposed to having it create hard shadows on his face. You can see how that hard shadow really darkens his eyes in a way that doesn't invite us in. But here, when he's looking up at it, it creates a catchlight in his eye, so it worked much better. The color in your images is a little like there's all different colors depending on where they are. I'm bounce around when I look at them as a series between the reds, 1, 2, 3, and the yellows in the images. Yellow, yellow, the background's yellow. There's yellow in here and yellow here. So as we're looking at a series, sometimes the colors can become more or less important, and they help guide us through your images here a little bit. The compositions are pretty varied here, right? So you have some images where you're really close to your subject, like here, and then these three images. Here you have this beautiful image where you're using a frame within a frame, and you're having a symmetrical image with your subject in the center. Here you have kind of a size and scale with the arm of your subject here, and then we're looking at the reflection. Here you're using the line of the body to bring us down to these colorful areas where he's cooking. And then here you're creating balance between the two subjects. So a lot of different compositions happening here. We can tell you've used simplification in a lot of your images by either bringing in a plain background, using selective focus, and here using selective focus on his hands, or simplifying your scene, just not having a lot of different objects in the scene. Your series feels cohesive, and it feels like we can look at each of these and think of different aspects of being male that might be discouraged, right? The image 5, just sitting down and sharing your feelings. Image 6, cooking, being in the home. Image 7 looks so playful. It looks, if you look at it quick, it looks like he's like lifting up his head and his hair is being flung behind him. Here, putting up his hair, having long hair, you talked about that. This is a really contemplative image as he's looking out at what's behind this building. And then here, the flowers, like enjoying smelling the flowers, having flowers in his hair and a pick in his hair. And then here, like he's intently looking at those flowers and playing with those flowers. So a really fun series that you've created. I think it's quite meaningful, and it's an important topic to be discussed. So I'm glad that you're using your photography and using your voice with it.